Good morning. Good morning, Millard High. We welcome you to our 2025 Veterans Day Assembly. This is a formal assembly, so please take your hats off and put your phones away. And we will now welcome Post 61 as they post the colors, so please stand. Hey everyone, Tess. Hey everyone, so American Legion Pulse, they were down to the elementary school doing an assembly down there. They left Formal assembly, so please take your hats off and put your phones away. We will now rise as Post 61 posts our colors.
Thank you, young people, for having us come and pay honor to our country and to our flag. And I'll turn the time over to our Sergeant of Arms, Steve Iverson.
After the posting of the colors, we will sing the national anthem. Color guard. Post colors. Hand salute.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rang there, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
2.
All right, students, now we're going to have Ellie and Maggie come out, and they've got some words to give us about the importance of America and our veterans. And then after that, they're going to give us a musical number. And then after that, we'll have Sam and Bobette White come up and talk. I'll do a quick little introduction for them when they come up and talk. But we're excited. I'm excited to hear these guys sing, and I'm excited to hear what people have as far as a message for us. Thank you.
Hi guys.
Let me get my slideshow up real quick. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is my dad. But that transition at first was really difficult for me. I had nourished these roots in an area for over 7 years and then was asked to tear them out. It was hard. And what made it worse was right when we moved, my dad left on deployment. So he was gone, and me and my family figured it out. We lived here, we adjusted, but I worried for him. Long-range missiles were being fired onto their base, and they weren't very accurate. It happened about every 3 or 4 months, so they weren't too worried, but they all went down to their bunkers and just waited and hoped that they didn't hit. And luckily they missed, otherwise my dad wouldn't be here. So there is risk involved in this job. He, for part of his training, parachutes out of helicopters, and you'd think, jumping out of an airplane is a bad idea, but it's okay. This is the result of his most recent jump. Yeah, pretty bad. It's not great. And then this is him. Right after the accident, they took him to the hospital, did their first surgery on his leg. It resulted in him being pretty much bedridden for a while. It was like 6 months recovery and then another surgery with pretty much the same process. And this was hard on him and our family because he was in a lot of pain. And he likes to go and be active, be engaged in the things that he does. And he wasn't able to. He had to sit around for a while. I remember he would just lay there and grind his teeth in pain and try not to cry out. So sometimes at night when he couldn't sleep, he would go down to our living room and he would plug in the Christmas tree lights and lay there under them because it was a little bit of comfort when we were all asleep. Sometimes it would wake me, and I would go and lay next to him while he did that, and we didn't say anything. He just laid there. This is him during his recovery. That's me at my debate competition. We had just taken region, and he made it, and so he's a trooper. So I don't tell you these things because I want you to pity me. That is not my intention. My intention is for you to understand and see just a portion of the sacrifice that goes down for this land to be a free one. My dad's sacrifices are significant, but there are thousands of men and women who have literally laid down their lives for our country. I want to share one more story, a story of a kid named Shahid. And since I've moved, I've forgotten a lot of names, but I won't forget his. He had moved from Afghanistan, and I remember him being just this bright, kind soul. He didn't speak much English, but he communicated with everybody. He made everybody laugh. And he didn't open up much about where he had lived in Afghanistan. He didn't say too much about it, but there was one time I had a conversation with him, and it really, really put my life into perspective and how grateful I am to live here. I don't think I'll ever fully understand how grateful I should be to be here, but he did tell me about the poverty there. They didn't have running water. They didn't have electricity. The women had to be completely covered in public, and they couldn't receive more than an elementary school education. That was the law. And he told me that there was a war there, and that's why they had left. So anyway, all this to say that I want you to leave here knowing that you are proud to be an American. Live in a way that honors those who have sacrificed and come before you, and never take for granted the freedom that they fought to protect. Happy Veterans Day. Sorry. Okay. I don't know how to do this. There we go. Come on. Okay. Good morning. It's an honor to speak to you today as we honor our veterans. Veterans Day is a day to recognize and celebrate the men and women who have served and sacrificed so much for our country. When we think of patriotism, we often picture flags waving or the national anthem playing at one of our games, or proud moments in our country like Olympic gold medals. The truest example of patriotism is our veterans. They show us what it means to love our country through action and not just through words. Their service reflects courage, dedication, and a willingness to put something that's bigger than themselves first. They sacrifice so much for us. Patriotism, at its heart, is about carrying responsibility and doing your part for something bigger than yourself. Every veteran's story is a little bit different, but they all share one thing in common. They chose to serve. They faced challenges, long separations from families and friends on deployment, and lots of uncertainty, yet they do it with strength and commitment. The willingness to serve, to act for the good of others, is just one of the purest examples of patriotism. Last summer, me and Ellie were able to attend a leadership government program called Girls State. And this is where we had the chance to hear from veterans and government leaders. This is Jenny Taylor. What stood out most to me was how humble they were. They didn't talk about their glory or their medals. They spoke mostly about teamwork, sacrifice, and responsibility. Listening to them reminded me that patriotism isn't just about pride in our country, it's about gratitude, respect, and choosing to make a difference in the world around us. We're also fortunate to see veterans serving right here in our community. American Legion Post 61 is very involved in our schools and our athletic events when they present the colors, and in our community as a whole. They support our student athletes and contribute to projects that strengthen our community. Their involvement shows that patriotism doesn't end with military service. It's something that they continue to live out day in and day out. Our veterans remind us that freedom isn't free. Every right and privilege we enjoy today, including being able to be here today, was protected by someone willing to serve. Their sacrifices call on us to live with gratitude, responsibility, and purpose. Patriotism isn't just a one-day idea, it's something that we show through our actions, in the way we treat others, and in the way we contribute to our community. As high school students, this seems kind of far-fetched, but we can show patriotism in simple but meaning ways. We can respect the freedoms we're lucky to have by using our voices responsibly, standing up for what's right, and serving others. We can thank veterans and honor the sacrifices made for our freedom, and even small acts like volunteering or showing kindness to someone different from us reflects the values that make our country strong. One of my favorite quotes is, patriotism is not about blind loyalty to the government, but fierce loyalty to the principles that make America great. We don't have to agree to be proud of our country. As we reflect on Veterans Day, let's remember that honoring our veterans isn't just about putting your hand on your heart when the flag is raised. It's about carrying forward the lessons they've taught about courage, service, and responsibility. The veterans we honor today have shown us that true patriotism combines bravery, dedication, and care, and it's an example that we can all follow. To all the veterans here today, and to those who can't be with us today, thank you. Thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and your example. Because of you, we have the freedom to live and to make a difference. May we never forget your courage, and may we always strive to live in a way that honors your legacy. Thanks. spacious skies, amber waves of grain, full of purple mountain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Maggie and Ellie, that was amazing. All right, and now I want to introduce, most of you know Sam White and Bobette White, but I want to introduce them, give you just a little bit of background. These are two individuals that have just been an amazing part of our community, and they contribute to so many things, and they've done so much for Millard High School. But Sam joined the military February 1989. He deployed to Tooele June 2002 to June 2003. He deployed to Louisiana in 2005 in support of hurricane relief operations. He deployed to Iraq from 2007 to 2008 in support of detainee operations at Camp Bucca. He retired as 1SG of the headquarters of the Utah National Guard February 2019 with 30 total years of service. So let's give it up for Sam and his wife, Bobette. When someone's deployed, and that's what we wanted to focus on this year. Sam was deployed, like I said, but Bobette, she's at home. She gets to take care of the kids, and she gets to take care of the family and the household and things like that. So we wanted to hear from her as well. And we're going to start off with Bobette, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Brother that served and is still serving. I had two boys that have served. One is still serving, and then of course we have served. And I say we because it was a team effort for 30 years. Being a military wife involves challenges, rewards, separations, uncertainty, and loneliness, and resilience, adaptability, strong communication, and independence. There is a great sense of pride and purpose that comes when you're serving or when you're supporting a service member. One of the highlights that I have from Sam's military career is every year that he was serving, we were able to go up to Governor's Day, and that is when the troops march in front of families and the governor. They also had family activities for the kids, but that just always gave me such great pride to see the men in uniform. Who can't pass up a man in a uniform? It always gave me a sense of pride when I would watch Sam prepare his uniform and polish his boots, and the sense of pride that he would take in taking care of his medals as he would pin them on his uniform. There is also a great sense of community that I found that as we were going through the deployments that was mentioned here. And helping the soldiers and giving them support when they needed it. And there were times when he would be helping the same soldier's family that I was trying to help. And so the communication was very important for me and Sam to be able to communicate. One kind of funny story that I would like to share here is that I had an opportunity to meet several different generals. And the one in particular, he, at the time when I was doing the family support, and I believe it was General Gordon. And so that was kind of a spotlight for me. One thing that a sense of community gave me was knowing that I have friends out there who were very supportive. Sometimes you just need that opportunity to have an adult conversation when you're dealing with your kids and you are carrying the role as mom and dad both. Another example of how the community helped us out is that when Sam was in Tooele, it was an interesting deployment for our family because he would be gone schedules, school schedules, sporting schedules, and we even picked up a few hobbies along the way. While Sam was gone on deployments, we also had some fun as a family when we would send care packages. And that was one thing my boys loved to do, was come up with fun things to send Dad. Cards. And we figured out that he was gone for a whole year. So that's roughly, 52 weeks? Once a week, we sent him a card. So for the whole year, he was getting a card, and it always had messages of encouragement, messages of love. We also had to discover that we had to get outside. It's so easy to be cooped up. Close your curtains, not answer your phone. And that's where the I wanted to involve our kids a little bit with this presentation today. So I sent them a text a couple weeks ago, and I said, I want you to share with me some of your thoughts about when Dad was in the military. 30 years is a long time. And one of our boys sent back, "It's hard to understand what you can't comprehend." And I had to kind of think about that for a moment. And I had to maybe think of my younger boys, because they did not fully understand what was going on. When he was in Tooele, we packed up all of our Christmas stuff, and we had Christmas in Tooele in what were they called, those living quarters for families? A bungalow? Yeah. So that was kind of fun. One of my other boys, and this one's going to be kind of hard to get through because he also joined the military. He said, "It's hard to think of all the things that I have learned, but the main thing is that stuck with me the most is to count on each other. Family's everything. Dad did what he had to do for us, even though it was hard at times, and missing things that I know he wanted to be at. He worked hard for his family and country. Dad has taught me to work hard and never give up." I know it was hard, and we probably made it harder, but you fought through it and made us all stronger for it. The unconditional love that you showed for us boys, I'll never forget. The examples you two showed to me growing up, I'll never forget. It has helped me to become the man I am today in raising his own family. I love you, Mom and Dad. Thanks for being the great parents you are. And remember, we can do hard things. And Hakuna Matata. That was one thing me and Caleb always said, Hakuna Matata, which means what?
I thought it was awesome that we had a child's perspective, we've had a wife's perspective, and hopefully I can give you a soldier's perspective, probably some couple of funny stories, and at the end, we would like, if you have any questions, because I've sit in these things before. I was at or what I was doing at the time. Excuse me. I joined in February of 1989. Now, like most of you, I grew up standing the first day of class and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and it was just something that we said. It didn't mean anything to me. It was interesting. I could repeat the words. I can still repeat the words. It just didn't mean anything to me. Then I returned from my mission in 84, and I wasn't home for 2 weeks, and an individual rolled up in a Jeep and said, "You've served God, now it's time to serve your country." Bobette's dad at the time was serving in the military, so in January of 1989, I called him up and says, "Hey, tell me a little bit about this National Guard." He says, "Well, I can have you talk to somebody." And I says, so I called, and I says, "Well, when's your next drill? I'd like to come down and see what it was like." And he says, "Yeah, come on down." He says, "That's great." So I went to, my first actual drill was in January of 1989, and I never got paid for it, even though they tried to get me to sign the papers the entire time I was there. I went home, and I talked to Bobette, and I says, "If I do this, I'm going to get a retirement out of it." So I wasn't doing the 6-year, 2-year commitment. I was going to do 20 years. That was my commitment. I asked her if she could commit me, and she said yes. So I called up. The recruiter was Dallin Nilsson at the time. Said, "I think I want to do this." He scheduled. We went and had tests. And funny story, you guys usually take the ASVAB test here and here. Well, I had to go up to on. You can hear him scribbling back there. Finally goes, "Math? Nobody said anything about math." Threw his hands in the air and says, "I'm done." He quit. Wow, that was kind of interesting. So, enlisted in February, and I was gone in April of 1989 to basic training. I left home Bobette and my oldest son, who was 6 months at the time. He wasn't even walking 6 months at the time. And I was gone for about 4.5 months for basic training. I remember coming back and getting back into the unit and doing things, and we started to get this is another kind of a funny story, a new computer system. So they took means we ran the computer to tell the guns where to lay, what quadrant, deflection to shoot. So anyway, we was out there, and they left to go to Camp Williams and do a training on this new system. I was out there literally with a handheld computer called a BUX, battery backup computer unit, a chart with an RDP and a stick. And that's how we were shooting fire missions. Now, we also did air assault missions that year, which means we took a howitzer and slung it underneath it. C-77 and had an antenna that went up about 8-10 feet. Well, I'm down there and I'm talking and getting ready to come in, and the Chinook comes flying over the top of me. And I'm like, going, oh my, it's a man-packed radio, so I just had to sit on the ground. It goes to fall over. Well, does anybody know what happens underneath the bottom of a helicopter? What's generated? I got shocked by the static electricity. Now, me not knowing any better, thought, well, I'm going to stand my radio back up, it's going to blow over again, and I grabbed it again. Not very smart on my part. For a week and a half, I thought I was the top dog. I was Billy Bad. You guys got it? And this group that's been trained on this new computer, they came with our Humvee. Was the newest person in the unit did. So I went from running the unit back to the chart. And I was upset. But as I thought about that years later, it's probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I realized that I wasn't as important as I thought I should be, but I also needed to maintain the skills of the lowest ranking individual in my section. And to also know that they need to be brought along. So, and Bart was in his office, and all I heard from the other room was, "Oh my Lord." And it wasn't just a simple thing. It was like something was really wrong. And I ran in there in time to see took over and crashed into a field in Virginia. Well, soon after that was 2002, it was the Winter Olympics. We was in Dugway. I remember doing a mission in Dugway for 3 weeks that you was either in the field or you was in Salt Lake on standby to be a guard. 2002. 2002 is when we deployed to Tooele. As Bobette says, and I'm sure anybody there would agree, that was the worst deployment ever. But there's a funny thing about that deployment. We'd come home, we'd be there for 6 days, come home, wash your clothes, get ready to go back. Now, it wasn't the same. It was always different. But I remember riding with detainees, which was kind of cool because in that thing. I also got to be able to, as an E7, I sat with a major and a captain. I got to sit on the board who reviewed these packets of the detainees we had in there, and we had to decide whether we was going to let them go or they was going to have to stay. And I remember looking at one packet, and out of the packet falls like 3 different driver's licenses or identification cards. And I remember asking the interpreter, there's an older gentleman sitting there, and I says, ask him about this, because if you got 3 different IDs in the United States, you're probably causing problems. So I says, well, ask him what these are for. So she asks him, she kind of chuckles, and I go, what's funny? She says he uses those for work. One of the deployments we had was like 2005. I kind of skipped over this, and I remember being home at like 10 o'clock at night. I got a phone call, you need to show up to your office at midnight. We're going to have a meeting. And within 6 hours of that meeting, I was on my way to Louisiana in support of Hurricane Katrina. That was such a good deployment. We were treated exceptionally well by the people there. I hope I'm alive. But so that was a great deployment, because as we would go, me and Sergeant Major Dooley would go check on our soldiers, we would stop someplace, and we couldn't pay for anything. Your money's no good here. Our soldiers out on patrol or out manning a post, people would just show up with ice cream or food. It was amazing. So the American people love their soldiers as we do here. In 2011, my last deployment was to Iraq again, and this time I was in charge of me, Jeff Kornberg, and myself, and a sergeant major from Special. Because we couldn't get a flight out. So, great people who were special operators, who were probably the most down-to-earth people they were on it. They knew what they was doing, but the people I met were probably the most willing to teach you something, answer your questions that I've ever met. Now, just a couple of things. So you know, everybody's okay. Well, that's not a way to start the email. And it come to find out that our boys had went down to a military thing, one had fell asleep, they'd ran off the road. And I even talked to him and told him, make sure you get plenty of sleep, you can't just hang out. But again, what was I going to do? The worst thing I ever did on any of my deployments is I called home, tried to call home a couple times. I was having a bad day, been like a bad week, and I tried to call home. No answer. I tried to call home again. No answer. And I remember I finally got through to Bobette, and all I could say to her is, where were you? I've been trying to call you. And in her loving way, she says, I have 4 boys, a house, and they're all in sports. Where do you think I'm at? So that made me be humble and understand that she was going through the deployment the same as I have. We got about 5 minutes left. I was just going to ask him, Bobette's going to, if Deegan can come up, do you have any questions for me or Bobette?
Let's give it up again just one more time for Simon Bobette. Thank you. Curious, how many of you are affected, like you have someone in the military, you have someone who's serving, you have someone who's been deployed, you have someone in your family, like stand up, I'm just kind of curious, stand up if you had somebody who has served that you know that's a part of your family or friend group or something like that. This is 50% of you. Okay, go ahead and sit down. Okay, what I'd like to ask of you today is just remember the veterans, remember those people who have fought and served. You know, sometimes these vets, they go to war and they don't come home. And then that poor wife and that poor family is there, they left and they never came back. So there's just a lot of situations that people have lost their lives and have given their lives. They have given their lives for our country. And I just want to make sure that we celebrate veterans all year long, not just on Veterans Day, but all year long. If you ever see a veteran, thank them. If you know that they're a veteran, thank them. You guys that just stood up, those people that are in your family, thank them for that. Legion Post 61, they're not here. I want to thank them again, but they're not here because they ran down to the middle school to another assembly down there. So they've served their country, but they're still serving to this day. And I want to appreciate them. I want to send my appreciation to Mrs. Mitchell, Mr. Tarbert, and Ellie and Maggie, and just everyone that helped make this happen. I really appreciate it. Okay, thank you to you students. You did a good job.